some lusty little crushes. We had those all ages hardcore matinee shows. I was down on my knees when the chaperone said it was time for me to leave. We had some laughs and not. Every song was all that wine was. Your friends are pretty cool. My friends were acting cool and there weren't any fight. Yes, they wanted to. So guys, they get a little bit tight. So girls, they got something to prove. Some massive night. We had some massive night. We had some massive night. We had some massive night.
But I'll never forget the way you feel right now. Oh no, no way. And I would do anything for love, but I won't do that. No, I won't do that.
And happiness the whole of our heart. And paradise is by the dashboard light.
Welcome back to Hood Rat Recap. You notice we played some Meatloaf coming in. Today's episode was recorded, I believe, hours before we found out of Meatloaf's passing. We do have we start out right away with the episode called From Meatloaf to Billy Joel. And that's an episode we based on the, beautiful lyrics by Craig Finn, the beautiful song there. And then Dallas tells a Meatloaf story. So it's we did record this episode before we found out about his passing. So I think his spirit was coming through in this episode for sure. So like I said, this is the Hood Rat Recap. Today I'm joined by my co-host Gaspar, and Gaspar sounds like this.
I got a minute to talk to Craig, and one of the things he had said, which I think is worth pointing out, is he said, like, what do you think about Bobby? Like, isn't his drumming, like, so on point these days? And, like, I think it's definitely worth mentioning. He's 100% right. And he said specifically this weekend, it's like he was on fire.
And today we are also joined by Dallas, and Dallas sounds like this.
Maybe one of my favorite pictures of myself, whether or not I look like garbage, will be me covered in confetti with my with my piano key necktie tied on inside 7th Street Entry.
In today's episode, we will be talking about nights 3 and 4 at the Brooklyn Bowl in December of 2021. If you have not heard the episode on nights 1 and 2 of Brooklyn Bowl, you can go back and listen to our last episode now, or you can listen to them out of order. Lord knows we are out of order when we tell the story sometimes too, so I don't think you necessarily have to listen to them in order. And let's get on with the show. Here's a little segment here we like to call I don't know if you guys could hear that, but it's called From the Meatloaf to the Billy Joel. And this is just a segment where we pick a group that we think Hold Steady fans would enjoy. So today it's Dallas's turn. And who do you got for us today, Dallas?
All right, so I have to take a quick curveball on you guys because it references Meatloaf, and I am from Dallas. And it also, the Hold Steady references JFK at one point. And those two have a weird tie because Meatloaf was a teenager. When Meatloaf was a teenager, he basically led the troopers' cars to Parkland Hospital, where JFK eventually died.
I did not know that.
You can look it up online. Like, they were coming up the highway, just heading home or whatever, and the troopers were like, "How do we get?" Or the Secret Service, I guess, was like, "How do we get to this hospital?" And he basically led them there, and they took JFK in, and they all went in, and so like teenage Meatloaf and his little buddies that were probably high out of their minds, got to walk around and like look at the car that JFK was in, because security used to not be what it is these days,
Yeah.
And so you can look it up online, and that's like, it's not a story that I need to tell, but it's one worth reading. But for the band that I would like to suggest to all Hold Steady fans, and probably anyone that knows me, that has already met me as a Hold Steady fan, knows that Sincere Engineer out of Chicago, Illinois, who Franz played keys on their new record, which is called Bless My Psyche, by the way. But it's an amazing band. They're not the same kind of music, but they are in each other's universes. And I think I'll just let their music do the talking for them. So if you want to just spin a track.
Okay, this one's called Trust Me, and it's off the Bless My Psyche, the 2021 album. So let's play it.
This is my grand introduction. I'm lying face down in the street for the second time this week, and all of my plans fail. All the things I promise you I'll never get around to.
I was looking for the chorus, but I think that it seems it's like a lot of verse.
Yeah, there's no real chorus in this tune, so
Yeah, I can
another reason that it fits into Hold Steady tunes sometimes.
Yeah, yep. The lyrics are very Hold Steady-ish.
There is not the A and B structure that a lot of other music has, you know.
All right, yeah, I was gonna hold out for the chorus, but so that was pretty neat. The lyrics are very Hold Steady-ish.
Yeah, there's like all of my favorite bands, there's some self-deprecation and some admitting that I'm doing things wrong, and somehow a positive undertone in it, even though you're saying all that shit at the same time, you know, or at least an up-tempo number, you know. So I think it'll go well with the Hold Steady fan.
Yeah, I think that definitely the lyrics. I didn't hear Franz's keyboards in that song. It must be in different songs, maybe, but
yeah, it's only on a couple of tracks.
Yeah. So that was Sincere Engineer. The name of the song was Trust Me, and that was off their 2021 Bless My Psyche or Psyche. So, anything you want to add to that, Gaspar?
Actually, I've been listening to the hell out of that record because that popped up in somebody's post in the Hold Steady group, and I've kind of made it a policy this year specifically of like, if someone posts about it, I'm going to listen to the band, and they haven't disappointed yet. It's been a lot of good stuff to check out, and those guys are great.
Also, just coincidentally, the first place that I saw Sincere Engineer and the first place that I saw the Hold Steady was in Chicago, which has no real bearing to anything, but it just it's just worth noting.
They're a good Chicago band, yeah. It seems like that sound is kind of making a comeback. That kind of that post-punk. I'm hearing a lot of that out of a lot of the new groups now. So okay, let's get back to night 3. So now you guys, we kind of got our nights jumbled up a little bit, but you guys, you guys ran into each other at night 3, right?
Right.
Yeah, night 3 was where everything that I might have said earlier, if this gets edited in a certain way, was not true. Yeah, so night 3, ran into Gaspar, got to meet his wife, which was really exciting. Got to introduce my buddy Travis to them. And then we were, I don't know, 10 people back, stage left, crowd right, which, like many places, is a great place to watch a Hold Steady show from. Right in the thick of it, you know. And Thick, the band, opened up that night, who was one of the multitude of bands that I found during the pandemic, just because my Twitter feed and my not being able to go to shows and just searching for something to make being locked down suck less came up, and so I caught. I think the first time I saw them was on a live stream, and I was just like, "Holy shit!" Like anyone that's ever liked any kind of Riot Girl stuff, any kind of punk stuff in general, and then so much outside of that too, because they've got great hooks in their songs. Really should take the time and listen to Thick. And so getting to see them, I guess coincidentally, right before my favorite band in the world played, was not a bad move. And they're from Brooklyn, so I couldn't have been too far from where they started. So it's one of those cool liking music takes you to liking music takes you to liking music kind of moves, for me. And I always love when that happens. And there's so many bands that I love now that I've kind of come across in that same regard. And so that was a great opener for me. It may not be everyone's cup of tea, but if it's not your cup of tea, you probably hate good music.
Okay, so the opening act, and then so what was their walkout music? Do you guys remember? Did they have walkout music this night?
Oh yes, they did, and it was
Shuffle. Yeah.
It was the best walkout music of all time. And just a personal note: if a bar has the Touch Tunes online jukebox, it is a song you will hear if I'm in that bar for very long, because I wasn't a big Boz Scaggs fan. Not because I didn't like him, just I wasn't real aware of it until so many times that I was like, what is this damn song that the Hold Steady are walking out to? Because it is an earworm.
Yeah,
it really is.
Like I'll wake up in the morning and have that stuck in my head, and I don't know how that happens.
And I work concert security at a Indian casino, so we always get the older acts like that, and they were advertising Boz Scaggs like all summer, so I heard that song like 10 times a day. I just hear that bass line.
Sounds like you had a great summer then.
Yeah, it was a good summer.
It might have been a constructive summer. Who knows?
A constructive summer. But I kind of think Open Door Policy kind of has a Bozzy Scaggs sound to me. The whole album kind of, a few of the songs do. I think so.
There are a couple tunes that are very bass line heavy, and I could see that.
Yeah,
definitely agree with that.
Yeah. So it looks like the first song on night 3, December 3rd, Friday, December 3rd, was Hornets. That's always a good one to start out with. Do you guys like that song, Hornets?
I love that song.
Anything off the first record.
I love that song, and as I mentioned earlier, how much I love that song blows my mind that I didn't connect with that first record like the moment I heard it, because like Hornets is literally one of my favorite songs, not by the Hold Steady, but literally one of my favorite songs.
Oh wow.
And somehow I missed that the first time I listened to it, and it makes zero sense to me.
Yeah, it took me a long time to get into the first album too. It's not as user friendly maybe as the other albums, but it's once you get into it, you just love it. So yeah, Hornets, and then we go into Stuck Between Stations at number 2. Do you guys just tell me any thoughts you have on any of these songs coming up?
I'm gonna tell you that literally this entire set list to me is perfect. And you could go, we could go song by song and bore everyone, and I could explain to you why each song is so great. So I'll try to refrain from that. But like God Almighty, like Hornets, Stuck Between Stations, Magazines, Lanyards, Hurricane J, Chips Ahoy, Family Farm, Cattle, Sequestered, Blackout Sam. You literally cannot beat those first 10 songs.
Well, what about number 11, Navy Sheets? Come on.
Well, that's why I stopped at 10.
That's why you stopped at 10.
If I keep going, I'm going to have to say again, you can't beat the next 10 songs. You know, like.
It's funny. Navy Sheets, I think, is the one song that I won't say I dislike it, but it's probably my least favorite Hold Steady song. I don't know why.
Navy Sheets is the funniest song for me to watch other Hold Steady fans react to during a live set. Because clearly is all I'm going to say. And so, like, some people think it's hilarious. Some people think, why are they still doing it? And then the rest of us are just like, I love that it's making you respond. and that's probably the answer to why they're still doing it.
Yeah.
Right.
I like that they still do it. It's kind of
And,
funny.
like, I don't
It's
know
funny.
what to not say to keep us from getting explicit ratings or something, but yeah, like, it's obvious.
Right. And plus, you
Everybody's coming on in Vegas suits. Everybody's coming on in Vegas suits.
get the so in that first 10 songs, you get the horn steady out, and that's the first time for the weekend, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, which
And that's
we
my cell phone. So.
we also really need to discuss the horn steady because one of the greatest stupid pun names that your always changing horn section of your band could have. The greatest, flawless. And
Absolutely.
then two, like, just what that does when they come running out, the room gets hot, you know, and you're like, oh shit, what songs did they put horns on this tour? Because it's not always the same songs in my experience.
No, it's not.
And so it's really exciting to be like, okay, like, what kind of Memphis sound are you give me on a song I already know, or Northern Soul sound on a song that I already love and know? Like, which one's this time? And that's always really exciting for me.
Well put. So, and could you tell, like, you guys went to the Minnesota show? Could you tell that they were different members from the? Because I know Minnesota was like kind of a made up. It kind of was a different hold steady or horn steady. Was it different members or same
It's
members?
more or less the same, like 6 or 7 guys that rotate, right? Depending on what city they're in.
Okay, that makes
I
sense.
should say I've only ever seen the same 6 or 7 guys. That's probably because it's probably
It
based on
depends. I
location.
think it depends on what region they're in.
Right.
Because, like, with respect, and this is a whole onion to peel back that Gaspar probably actually knows more about, but, like, you're not paying a guy to go too far away to play 3 or 4 songs on horns.
Right.
So, like, in London, there was horn steady, but they're all from England.
From
because
England?
Okay.
You're not flying over 3 songs of a saxophone, and I don't mean that to disparage the saxophone at all.
Yeah,
It just doesn't make sense physically, you know.
and I like when they have the saxophonist from. I don't know if you guys have ever seen Craig solo, but he's got a great.
Stuart Boogie,
Is that his name?
I believe so. Yeah, he's incredible.
He's just amazing.
He does a lot of their. He produces a lot of their stuff too, I believe.
This might be the wrong time to stop down, but if you haven't seen Craig solo, to anyone listening to this,
It's amazing.
you need to see Craig solo.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think I've seen him. I may have seen him solo more than I've seen the Hold Steady, because there was one year when he was coming out with We All Want the Same Things, where he played a free festival. He played First Avenue. I saw him like 6 times, like within a year. So he was just all over my town. So, yeah.
Craig solo is the only way I can see Craig Finn in Dallas, because the Hold Steady will probably never play here.
Because it's not safe for Catholic shit. No, just kidding.
Well, I mean, that'd be a good thought, but, like, they don't tour, and so I don't think Dallas will be at the top of their list. But, like, I can go see Craig Finn solo at a 150 cap room, which is amazing, by the way. That's the way I prefer to see shows.
Yep.
And then, you know, because Craig is who he is, he will hang out all night, answer questions, shoot the shit. If you're an autograph person, he'll probably do that. I don't know. I haven't tried, but, like, he literally is just happy that people come out and see him do his craft. And that's a big thing about the Hold Steady and Lifter Pooler and Craig Finn and all the above. But, like, I think that he kind of understands the difference between the Hold Steady and Craig Finn and appreciates that in a way that tells you a lot about the man, I guess.
There he is. He's calling you on your cell phone right now.
Hey, it could have been worse, you know. At least it wasn't Eruption playing from your cell phone speaker.
So, and then night 3. So the last, all the heavy hitters, and then the whole Horn Steady. Why can I not say that? Come out again for 4 songs later in the night.
Oh yeah, which I do want to touch on, because Heavy Covenant with the Horn Steady in Brooklyn.
That would be amazing. Sounds amazing.
Holy shit! Like, I don't even know what to say.
That song and Family Farm, I feel like they should only play with the horns. Like,
You think so? Wow.
It makes the song, yeah.
And they did it with Hot Soft Light too. I would have liked to hear that.
Mm-hmm.
That's a song.
Well, and
getting into
and
maybe.
like Massive Nights with the Horn Steady is just twice as big as a huge song. You know what I mean? Like, the song on its own is big. You add the Horn Steady, you add the rest of us that are in the Hold Steady, because we are all. And so Massive Nights is always huge, you know. But you put the horns there, and it does that extra layer. It's almost like, holy shit, you're not gonna do anything better than this tonight. Which kind of goes back to what I was saying, is like they've really learned how to cultivate their set list to make you think like it can't get better, you know, this and that, and then they do, and then the crowd equally reacts to that, and so like not only is the set list getting better, or the songs getting as good, at least, you know, but then also everyone that didn't know each other that walked into that venue tonight is now friends, because they keep looking at each other and going, holy shit, they're playing this. And they're slapping each other, you know, slapping people on the chest that you don't know. Like, you're doing all kinds of shit that, like, doesn't seem as normal, especially in the current times as it used to, but also feels better than anything you felt in a while, you know?
Well put. And then I was just looking it up. They brought out the Horn Steady for the encore. I mean, they do the feelers without them, and then they do Entitlement Crew, Chicago, and Killer Parties all with the Horn Steady for the encore.
Yeah.
Like, Killer Parties with the Horn Steady is awesome too.
I think Gaspar and about, I don't know, 900 other people, or however many that room holds, will agree that this was literally a night for the books. And
I think that's a really night of the 4, actually.
That's a really bold thing to do when you have to play again the next night.
Absolutely.
So they just went for it, huh?
No, like as the young kids would say, it was full send, like just all the way.
Go ahead, Gaspar.
So night 3, I also went to the soundcheck party. So they play a total of, I should have counted these ahead, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 9 songs total that they play. If you've never been to the soundcheck party before, they're a lot of fun. It's a little bit more of an intimate audience. I'd say there's probably maybe 100, 150 people there.
That sounds great.
And they do it in this, it was incredible. And they do it in this cool format of, like, the band's up there, you're standing, you know, in the normal spot where you stand, and then there's a moderator who's usually from, typically it's the guy from Rolling Stone, or there's a guy from music section of New York Times. This year they got a writer I had not seen before, and I think he was a political writer who just happened to be a Hold Steady fan. And they take questions off of Twitter, and then it'll be like a couple of questions, and then they'll play a song and a couple of questions. So it's a lot of fun. I highly recommend going to see him. But in that set, you got Spices, Sweet Pain, Yeah, Sapphire, Hornets, One for the Cutters, which I feel like is vindication, because I asked for it at one of the soundcheck parties and they couldn't play it because they didn't have it rehearsed, and then we got it. Pilot and Gem, The Feelers, The Prior Procedure, and Blackout Set. So that was the rundown for the soundcheck party.
Wow, they really go for it in that soundcheck too.
That's a hard 9 songs, you know, like in the best way.
And then they go with
and they
full set
literally
after
come
that.
from, like, I don't think they're all planned. They tend to either take a song from a request or a Twitter post, or they'll get someone who's there and be like, what do you want to hear? And so if they're able to play it, because when you think about it, it's like, wow, they have a lot of songs to know, and it's not easy to have those songs down, ready to go live. So you can stump them, which I have done, but yeah, they're all over the spectrum with that set.
Well, especially because they're not a full-time working band, like,
Right.
so, Steve and Franz and Craig all do their own thing. I don't know what else Tad and Galen do because maybe I haven't looked hard enough yet, but like they all have their other own things going on. And so for a band that has as many songs out as they do or recorded as they do, like that's a difficult task. And so, yeah, they'll get stumped, even though they probably could have played through it for you. They couldn't have played through it in a way that they would have enjoyed.
Right.
They don't want to give you a bad product,
Right.
If you guys don't mind, I do want to mention the end of the third night in the coat check line, picking up the merch stuff that we were eventually going to lose. We just happened to meet a couple of young folks from Brooklyn who ended up like being the nicest people in the world, that we spent the next night watching the set with. And so like that's one of the main things about Hold Steady shows, and like it's literally how I know you guys. It's how I know a handful of people. I've had people like willing to take my posters home and send them to me from shows, because like I was going out drinking and they lived close, and they was just give me your address, and I was like, all right, I'll Venmo you $20 and just ship it to me. And I really want to mention that because like it's that community aspect of it is really amazing. And I met Mike and Shar, two awesome people that night, which will come back up in the next night. So
Okay, so let's get to that, or before we get to that night 4, I was just gonna finish off my certain shows are scratched into my soul. That I was gonna do part 2 of that. So we left. I left Denver, and I should say when I was flying home from Denver, they double charged me for my hotel room. So I think and then I forgot to get my vacation pay from work. So I think I actually flew halfway across the country with like $7 in my wallet. But so that was like that. But then 3 months later, I went to the Massive Nights, the Brooklyn Bowl, that show, and actually I bought tickets to Hamilton. I got first row, first seat, which isn't as good as it sounds. I call it the Lincoln seat. I was up in the balcony, and I had to it's a U-shaped, so I was on the end of the U, so I had to, anything that happened in the left back of the stage, I had to kind of look around the corner to see it. But it was really neat. But the only thing is, I paid for Hamilton, I paid like $330 for my one seat. I went by myself to Brooklyn. And then the Hold Steady shows, I think I went to 3 shows, I ended up going to, and they were like $20 a piece back at that time. So it was just pretty crazy how the difference in price. Yeah, so I was in New York.
And they're both super important things. Let's just mention that.
Yep.
My name is Alexander Hamilton, and there's a million things I haven't done. But just you wait, just you wait.
Yep. So it was great. And then I didn't get to see the cool things you saw, Dallas, that you saw when you were in New York. I think, well, I went to the 9/11 museum. That was pretty cool. But mostly I just rode the subway a lot back and forth. And I stayed in Brooklyn. I stayed in the Brooklyn Pod, it was called, the hotel, the Pod Hotel. And I had no idea.
So that's actually where we were planning on staying.
Okay, let me tell you about
their rates got really, really high. And an Airbnb that was super nice. Shout out to Chester. I gave you 5 stars. It was so much cheaper than that would have been, which is wild to me.
Well, it must have just been opening because the Uber driver got lost going there at the time I was there, and I didn't know anything about it. and it was pretty cheap when I went. And then so I go, and the room is tiny, and I didn't. They had a prison theme. Like I'm walking down the hallway to my room, and it says Cell Block H. And I was like, "What's this about?" And I go in my room, and the room's got two little cots with 14-inch TVs at the end of, mounted to the beds that I kept accidentally kicking all weekend when I was sleeping. And then the rooms have like bars, and they look out into a courtyard. So that's where they got the prison theme, because it looked like a courtyard. And the toilet was, this sounds like a Hold Steady song, the toilet was in the shower. So
The party with a python in the shower.
so that took some coordination. Like if you had to go pee after you took a shower, you didn't want to wear your socks because your socks would get all wet in the shower. But so I didn't get all the logistics to that. But I swear to God, the toilet was in the shower. It was a really small room, and I looked it up, and it's still open. Or you said it was still open, but I don't think they have the prison theme, or at least maybe they don't in the rooms I was looking at. I think they got rid of the prison theme, which I think they should have kept that. But
that may be a whole other podcast to discuss that.
So anyway, so I went to the 3 shows, and I'm walking to the first, and then again, it was within walking distance of the Brooklyn Bowl. That's a big thing with me. I like to walk in case the wheels fall off. So I walk to the first show. I get there really early, and this was when I'm starting to get into the front row. I'm going to get into the front row. I go, I don't know when I'm pee because I can't leave because I'm by myself. So I go, I'm going to go pee now. So I go upstairs to the bathroom, and I, do my business, and I'm going over, and I look over in the mirror, and there's some guy doing his hair in the mirror, and it was a guy with really good hair, and I go, "Hey, were you at Red Rocks?" And I just looked it up. Red Rocks has a capacity of 9,455, and I sat next to this guy at Red Rocks. He's the one that was the Lifter Polar fan that didn't want to go to the Hold Steady show.
Holy shit!
So,
wow.
And he said he had just moved to Brooklyn. He told me he had lived in Ohio when I saw him last. And he said he walked to the show too. He lived in Brooklyn now. So it was Chris from the guy who got the cool pictures with the Lifter Polar where he's hugging Craig and everything. So that was just crazy. I couldn't believe it. And yeah, that was pretty much my Brooklyn Bowl show. We went and had great, just like you guys had great time at those Brooklyn Bowl shows. And I just thought that was crazy. In the Brooklyn Bowl bathroom, I see somebody I sit next to in Red Rocks.
I know I've already said it, but I will never undervalue just that weird meeting people shit at Hold Steady shows where it's like, hey, Gaspar could tell you, but we may not have anything in common, but we have this one thing in common that we really like, and so then we can talk about things we don't have in common because we already have a mutual respect for each other, or because we've already met about something we both love. Right. And there's a lot of value in that, especially these days. And again, that might be a whole other podcast, but that's pretty amazing that you ended up running into the same dude. I have friends, no joke, around the world that I have only met because of the Hold Steady. That if I post on Instagram, I'm feeling sick or whatever, I'll get a text from a dude in London that's like, "Hey, hope you're doing all right, man."
Oh, that's amazing.
And it's just it's pretty unreal. I got a New Year's text on New Year's 5 hours early from a guy that I met at the Camden shows, Oh. And it's just shit, there are other places you can make friends like that, but there's not a ton of other places. And I'm not saying just the Hold Steady, maybe it's music in general, but it's pretty special.
And I was just looking, it's kind of weird. So was night 1 was December 1st, and so did it go 1, 2, 3, 4, the same as the date, huh? The nights were the same. Wow.
Yep. And somehow I still messed that up earlier, which is the more embarrassing part.
We often Hold Steady shows run together. It's part of the nature of the show, just because of the state we're in. Usually so. So what are you guys' impressions of night 4?
It's a great way to wrap up the weekend for sure. I mean, you kick off with Stuck Between Stations, and then the Swish, Party Pit. I mean, you could just go down the line of there's also great songs.
There's nothing quite like the room when Craig just goes, "Oh shit," and everyone knows that the next thing he's about to say is "party pit." Like, I don't know how many beers have been spilled in reaction to that, but it's a lot of beers.
Absolutely. It
And
is.
so they played it song 3 here, like I was saying in the last podcast. It's my favorite, one of my favorite Hold Steady songs, and they always play it at song 5, spot 5. But here they get it even earlier at song 3. So sometime I'm going to ask them why they always play it the first 5 songs. So, and then looks like
Then you get
go ahead.
they bring the horn steady out. You get Spices. You did Good Kid, Entitlement Crew, and then Unpleasant Breakfast, which is I think everybody's favorite song off this record at this point.
So real quickly, You Did Good Kid with the horn steady is like, if you haven't seen it live, you need to be at a show where it happens live, because oh my god, it's a good song. It's not my favorite Hold Steady song, but with the horn steady in a room full of horned up Hold Steady fans, it's perfect. And then the only thing you could do to top that is literally play Entitlement Crew right after it. Like,
Wow.
because Entitlement Crew feels like it's been a song that they wrote on day one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it feels like it has always been in the canon, and it really hasn't. You know,
No,
if you
one of the newer
timeline it,
ones.
yeah, like,
Was that the first song they released that was going to eventually become
thrashing.
Thrashing
I
Through the
think
Passion?
so. Yeah, I believe.
So it was
the
out
first
a
song.
good, 12, 13, 14 months before Thrashing Through the Passion came out.
Because they did about 4 or 5 songs that way, and then they just decided to put out the record. So
Yeah,
that's about right.
So, okay.
I think it was a Record Store Day
Mhm.
7-inch tune. Again, I'd have to go look, but I think it was an A-side on a Record Store Day kind of 7-inch thing, and like, it was unreal how well it fit into, like, oh, this is a song I've always known.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you haven't. That song's been out for 5 days. You can't feel like you've known it for 5 years. You know, like,
Yep.
Back in Scranton like in 1999 when I'm sorrowing through with the Entitlement Crew. Wasn't all that into it. There was nothing I could do about it.
but yeah, we should. It'd be in bad faith if we didn't stop and talk about Unpleasant Breakfast, because I guess the first time it really happened was at the small shows in Minneapolis.
Just one of them, I think they played it, right? Yeah. In
Yeah, they
Minneapolis.
played it on the early show in Minneapolis, I believe.
So this
No,
was
it's the late show. The late show on the smaller side of the venue.
You're right. You're right. It was the late show because
And in typical Hold Steady fan behavior, we all busted their asses with the woos, but they loved it, and so that'll probably be a thing going forward. You know,
yeah.
well, that's just,
but
since that record has come out, like I think everyone has been waiting to do the Wolves. Like that's, I can't wait to get to the show to do the.
Down to the water's edge. See the seagulls eat cigarettes. Check your breath in a spoon. All the stuff on the storage shelf.
Wolves, and so like you're just so pent up for it.
right, and also like none of us believe the narrative that the woos weren't people. Like,
So it's supposedly a keyboard sound.
there's no
But
way.
they had to have known that this is where this is going to go.
There's no way.
Yeah. I don't know how a keyboard can, well, I mean, maybe a synthesizer, I guess, but that'll be a little controversy
like-
for us. Yeah.
They thought that would either flip or flop, and it did neither. We all fell in love with it. And so, like every other little quirky in-joke that they will have their asses just beaten down with us wooing until the end of time, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's the second time they've ever played that live. Then I mean, in front of an audience, or
Right.
probably total, yeah. So and then what do you guys? Anything else stand out to you on the second half of the set list there?
Well, yeah,
So-
I want to. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I want to skip to 12 because Heaven is Whenever We Get Together is like literally. The song is almost written only to be played live to a room of only Hold Steady fans. Because, and so this night I was stage right, halfway back or further, with Mike and Shar, who I had met earlier the night before, and we met up and got some drinks before the show. And so we were like, hey, let's just stand in a convenient place, but not at the back, you know. And right behind us were a bunch of like younger people that like you almost are like, oh, I wonder if you're just here because it's a show. And then they're singing every single word, every single tune, and so you end up meeting them, you know, hugging these dudes, like punching each other in the chest during like the certain sing-along parts of certain songs. And so when Heaven comes on, like, and everyone's religious preferences and history are all different, but when Heaven comes on, it's kind of like you're in church for a minute, you know?
Heaven is whenever we can get together, sit down on the floor, listen to the records. Heaven is whenever we can get together, lock your bedroom door.
And you're just taking it in and you're enjoying, like, or like you're meditating or doing yoga, whatever people do. Like, it's like you're just taking that in and being like, this is the absolute fucking truth. You know, like Heaven is whenever, and maybe I'm not listening to your records because you're playing them right in front of me.
Right.
But I am right now getting together with somebody and listening to your records. And like, there's a lot of emotional, like, realizing the value in the moment or something like that, which a lot of which we have lost in the last few years. It's been hard for a multitude of reasons, but like to be standing in the Brooklyn Bowl on the last night of a set, knowing that, you know, they're going to give you the best they got left. And if it was any other band, you might not know how much is left, but with these guys, you know what's left if you've ever seen them on a last night before, you know.
Yeah.
And Heaven really kind of tied that in. They ramp up from there, you know. It's like it's almost like they planned that, like, hey, let's get emotionally heavy and then let's fucking party, you know. Like,
Awesome. Okay. So did you guys have any other thoughts on any of the rest of the set list there?
Just a couple of notes I jotted down. We do get I Hope This Whole Thing Didn't Frighten You, which is the only Teeth Dreams song they play the whole weekend.
which is wild. Like,
Yeah, and it kind of I'm a little bummed by it, I guess, because
Yeah.
it's funny, when that record came out, it was not my favorite record. I liked it, but it was, you know, if you had to rank them, it was not towards the top. And now that you're not getting those songs as often, it's like, but where's Runner's High? You know? Like, where's all these other songs? But it's like, you can't play everything. I mean, then they played a ton. So it's not a complaint, but it's like, oh, I would like to see a little more Teeth Dreams. The other notes
Honestly,
I wrote down were, no, second. Okay.
like, so starting from there, because like they played it right after Construct the Summer, which like always goes well. But starting after that is when the Hornsteady came back out, and then also they played T-Shirt Tucks, which everyone starts dancing like the Carlton, basically. You know,
Right.
it's a room full of nerds that are dancing like they're not nerds, and that's the only way that works that way. You know. And then they went straight into Rip Town, which for those that weren't there, they had a Riptown beer for that weekend.
Cool.
And so they played that, which was the first time they'd ever played that live.
Mm-hmm.
And then straight from Riptown into Sequestered, which like clearly that might be the one where I'm talking about where you're punching dudes in the chest, but you're singing along and smiling at the same time, you know. And then Hanover Camera, again, first time they'd played it live, and really was like, I don't know how you felt about it, but it was really impressive.
I love Hanover Camera, and I kind of feel like if of all the Hold Steady songs, do you think that's the one that's most informed by his solo career? Like, I feel like that could be a Craig Finn song, but
the coolest part about her is she has her own apartment, but still an inconvenient place to die. The party with a python in the shower, Heather with the henna on her hands. Once we started mixing, it was sodium bicarbonate. We got backstage and hung out with the band. And they said, you're the one that really makes it happen. If you're ever on the West Coast, give a shout. The manager asked if we'd break off a little package. Singer put his finger in my mouth.
I'm with you because of that bass line.
Yeah.
But I also kind of feel like Hanover Camera is, how do you say this? Slightly aware of their age as a band to kind of throw back to like classic rock, but not be so dad about it.
right,
Does that make sense?
yeah,
And then followed that up with Massive Nights, which clearly is going to blow the roof off the place, because you're there. You know, like
that's your theme song for the weekend.
yeah, and what a smart move to put it late in the set list, but not last. You know, and then they played Southtown Girls, which, like, that is just a jammer. You know, I don't really know how to say it, and I hate to repeat myself, but now that I think about it, Southtown Girls is definitely where I was punching those guys in the chest, because it's just it's that, like, that rhythm of it, like, you know, it's just got that. And then we got Resurrection again, and that never sucks ever.
And if they're going to play it, they're going to play it at the end of the show. I've heard that somewhere before.
And if the band never plays a resurrection, it's at the end of the show.
That never sucks to hear, whether it's on your Spotify or as the last song of the last night of a weekend, where you probably were hungover when you came in, and now you've drank yourself out of that hangover, and so you can really understand how a resurrection really feels in that moment. And then we got the encore, and I'll let Gaspar start that one, and I'll try not to talk over him.
Before we jump to that, I just wanted to, I don't know if you said you were more towards the back at that show. Did you see they went with the ties again for t-shirt tucks?
I did.
So, like, but they were not keyboard ties. They were like just ties.
Here was some guy. He's got a t-shirt, tucks, and a piano key tie.
Yeah, I know. I saw that, and I know that you mentioned it in the last episode, but I think it's worth revisiting. Like, at the small late night show in Minneapolis, some absolute genius bought, I don't know how many, but a lot. A lot of keyboard skinny neckties and tossed them up during t-shirt tucks, and the band got in on the fun. The fans got in on the fun. Maybe one of my favorite pictures of myself, whether or not I look like garbage, will be me covered in confetti with my t-shirt. I'm sorry, with my piano key necktie tied on inside 7th Street Entry in Minneapolis, seeing the Hold Steady. Like, it's just because, like, I know how much, when I see that picture, I know how much history was in that weekend for me leading up to it, and then now going forward from it, you know, like, and so like I said, like I probably look drunk because I was, and I probably look sweaty and shitty because I was both of those things, but like when I die, that'll be the one that I want on my slideshow. You know what I mean?
Awesome.
Because that was a weekend where I met like 7 or 8 people that I just really, really care about now and had a great time with. And like we shared something that, you know, no one does. And so I love that is going to keep going forward because I would like to have 10 more of those, you know, over the years.
So like we were talking on the last episode, they must be Amazon must finally be out of keyboard ties. At this point, they couldn't believe they sold that many. So,
by the way, I looked that up like to try to buy them in bulk, like to take with me to the London shows, which I guess I shouldn't say out loud, but whoever that person was spent a decent amount of money. like I'm not saying that they're expensive, but
yeah.
if you buy
I gotcha.
30. If you buy 30 of something that is $3 or $5, like I wish I knew who threw them and that I could shake their hand and be like, "You son of a bitch, you created something amazing," you know? Because there's no way that just goes away, you know?
Right. Yeah. It's almost. I think the when they put out their recap email, they said like, "I think we're turning it into the Rocky Horror Picture Show." Like that's 100%. They stay stable.
Yeah. And then so the encore, if we want to move to that, are we ready for that?
Yep. Go ahead.
Yeah. So they kick it off with certain songs, which like, is there a better encore song for them to come back to? I mean,
especially like you come out of How Resurrection Really Feels, and then you come out and you play certain songs. Just make sure that we're emotionally vulnerable for whatever you're going to do next. You know?
Right.
Like, get us all excited and happy, sad at the same time, and then come out and play certain songs. Because that refrain in certain songs, it just, like, love that song. I love how long it is. That night, it probably felt like it was an hour long, but I mean that in the absolute best way possible. Like, everyone that was your neighbor in the crowd, you got a chance to look at them and sing that part to them over and over again because it repeats enough, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
And it was amazing. Like, maybe not everyone is that way, but for me, that was amazing. Like, just, I was like, hey, we're all friends right now. I might not know your name. I don't know where you're from. I don't know your number, but we've all just gone through this thing together, and it's amazing.
Yep.
All right.
And then just to wrap up the encore, the horn steady comes back out. They do Confusion in the Marketplace, Stay Positive, and then with Killer Parties. Which it's cool to hear Confusion in the Marketplace with the horn steady. I do like that
sure.
song. That's one of the more fun ones for sure.
And I'll never hate the close of the night being Killer Parties. Because
that has to be that way forever.
Right. And every single person in that room knows that, like, even, I'm sure someone showed up, got drunk before they meant to, but they know that they're not going home yet because Killer Parties comes on and you have to at least go get a beer somewhere or a cocktail or whatever to unwind yourself what just happened to you emotionally and physically. And honestly, like, that might be my favorite thing about the Hold Steady is that I don't leave I go to a shit ton of shows and I have a lot of reactions to a lot of things, musically, emotionally, whatever, at those shows. But I don't know that I've ever left a show feeling the same way I've left the Hold Steady show. And you can't just go home and go right to sleep. Like, it's just not, it's not a thing.
Yeah.
You know? And I'm not talking like because you did drugs or any of that shit. If you did, that's fine. But I haven't. You know, it's just because you get like that natural human interaction feel. You can do that solo, which I've done. You can do it with your friends, which I've done. Like, you could do it with the people you met the night before. You know, like, it's just, it's untouchable. Like, I don't know another way to get that same high, I guess, you know.
Agreed.
Same high as you did on that fourth night, huh? No, just kidding.
Honestly, yeah. Like that, they should maybe retool that. Not retool it, but have an alternate version that they just play on the closing night of a fest or a weekend, you know, like.
So we're on the timer again. So why don't you, Gaspar, you had the stats of all the songs for this. So give us the stats for the entire 4-night run here, Gaspar.
So over the four nights, 65 unique songs in total. 46 of those played only one time, which is pretty incredible. So that's about 25 songs a night. I believe one set was 26 and one was 24, but that's a ton of music. And when you think about 46 of them were only played one time, that's half the set practically. They went through a lot of stuff. The other point they had made was they had a goal of playing everything off of open door policy over the 4 nights, and I believe they do succeed. You get May Magdalena the first night, Spices, Prior Procedure, Parade Day second night, Family Farm, Heavy Covenant third night, and Spices, Unpleasant Breakfast, Lanyards, Riptown, Hanover Camera, and the Feelers on the fourth night. I think that does hit all of them. So, yeah, that's the
pretty impressive. Pretty impressive.
Yeah, they got that worked in there. So what are your final thoughts here, gentlemen?
I did want to just point out the merch again. So the localized merch this time around was the I Love New York logo thing, which, if you remember those commercials back, was like late 70s, early 80s. The I Love New York commercials, I believe, was based around that, which was very cool. And they brought the turtle shirt back, which I got to buy my turtle shirt. I was happy about that.
Excellent. So you can see I'm wearing my First Avenue hoodie for the Hood Rat recap tonight.
Ooh, one point I did want to bring up, I totally forgot. So we, Dallas and I had gone to Lake Street after the last night, which is where everybody gravitates to. The band winds up going there. And I got a minute to talk to Craig. And one of the things he had said, which I think is worth pointing out, is he said, like, what do you think about Bobby? Like, isn't his drumming like so on point these days? And like, I think it's definitely worth mentioning. He's 100% right. And he said specifically this weekend, it's like he was on fire. And I agree.
And he was, and it looked effortless. As a drummer myself, he looked effortless, and he was not effortless. You know what I mean? Like, it was. That's the kind of goal that you reach for, you know.
Yeah, I think the whole band is playing really tight lately. It just, like they said, it's like he always says, it's the best lineup they've ever had, and
it really is.
Yeah, excellent. All right, so should we have a little Killer Parties will take us out here?
Right before that, I want to overstep my bounds for a moment, as I am known to do, and thank you for having me on, everyone. This is your host, Mike. This is Gaspar. If you made it this far, we appreciate you. And we are all the Hood Rat Recap.
There you go. Perfect. Love it.
Nice.
There is so much joy in what we do up here. And Ybor City is very speedy, but they throw such killer parties. Killer parties almost killed me. Killer parties almost killed me.